Vice President Kamala Harris has made it absolutely clear that if she gets into office, she is going to push for millionaires and billionaires to pay a higher percent of their income in taxes, reversing, of course, the 2017 tax cuts that the Republican-controlled Congress and then President Donald Trump signed into law, which, let's not forget, are still in place. We have had almost 4 years of the Biden administration, 2 of which the Democrats had the House and Senate, and those tax cuts were not repealed. Kind of like Obama when he came into office in 2009, technically. He didn't repeal the Bush tax cuts. He extended them, even with a Democratic House and Senate. So most of the time, the Democrats are more than willing to say, you know what? Let's just leave these tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires in place. But Harris tells us she is going to reverse that, and I hope she does. But Republicans are not happy about that. And the powerful chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, man by the name of Representative Jason Smith, went on Fox News last week to talk about how ridiculous it is to say that the wealthy have to pay their fair share in taxes. Pay their fair share, he says, is ridiculous. Here's the exact quote. What's so ridiculous is for her statement to say that the rich should pay their fair share. It's just a talking point that she throws out there. Her policies are absolutely atrocious. For the record, Mr. Smith, and I don't respect you enough to call you Representative Smith, you're Mr. Smith to me. Her policies would not send the United States spiraling into a depression. Her policies would only add half as much to the federal, budget deficit than Donald Trump's would. Trump's policies, according to economists around the globe, would increase inflation to at least 6%, driving consumer prices up for us in the next 4 years to more than 30% of what we're paying now, or between 20 and 30%. And that's in the, quote, best case scenario. I talked about that study, actually those multiple studies, the other day. So for you to sit there and say that, 1, it's ridiculous for the wealthy to pay their fair share, and 2, that her policies are terrible, then you're either completely oblivious to the news cycle or you're intentionally lying to people because you don't have any respect for them. And if you don't have respect for people, as I said, Mr. Smith, I have no respect for you. But just in case Mr. Smith wants a little bit of economic lesson here, let me read you this. Harris's argument that U.S. billionaires are paying historically low tax rates is backed up by hard data. Earlier this year, French economist Gabriel Zucman wrote in the New York Times that the wealthiest Americans paid just 23% of their income in taxes in 2018, the first year that those tax cuts were in effect. Previously, the top 1% of Americans paid more than 56% of their income in taxes in 1960, and taxes still took up 52.7% of their incomes in 1970. After Ronald Reagan's inauguration in 1981, the richest saw their tax rates drop precipitously, paying just over 35% of their incomes by the time Reagan left office in 1989. Then we had the W. Bush tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, and all of that. But even under Reaganomics, right, trickle down, the Laffer curve, and all that totally, completely debunked BS, the wealthy were still paying 35%. And they're paying 23% today. Technically, based on the actual paid tax rate, working class Americans are paying a larger percentage of their incomes than the wealthy elite. So that's what we're dealing with. So no, Representative Jason Smith, it is not ridiculous to say that the wealthy need to pay their fair share. Seriously, that's just good economics.